A week before their wedding, Ryan brushed aside a last-minute client call and rushed home early, eager to rehearse his wedding vows. As he opened the front door, he was surprised to see his stunning bride-to-be, Caroline, impeccably dressed in a black cocktail dress, a string of pearls, sheer black stockings, and high heels. "Damn, she looks good," he thought. "You're early," Caroline's shrill voice betrayed the terror she was feeling, as her plan to avoid confrontation began to unravel. Ryan initially assumed she had forgotten about their dinner date, so he flashed his best smile, kissed his fiancée, and announced, "Give me 10 minutes and I'll be clean-shaven and ready to go." "Go where?" Caroline trembled, her words a torrent of fear. Ryan froze, his smile fading. "With you, of course," he replied, his voice softening as he took in her appearance. "You look absolutely stunning." After a meaningful pause, Caroline responded, "Darling, I'm so sorry, but you've misunderstood me. Oh my God, I was so dreading this conversation that I was going to leave you a note explaining everything." Ryan was even more confused when he noticed a travel bag next to the front door. Caroline followed his gaze. "I won't be home this weekend. I'm going away." "What do you mean you won't be home? I'm so excited about wedding planning." "Where are you going?" Caroline hesitated for a moment before answering, "A hotel downtown." "All alone?" It took her over a minute to admit, "I'll be with a friend." Ryan took a deep breath, his voice firm. "Since you didn't mention your friend's name, is it safe to assume you'll be with a man?" Caroline looked guilty as sin. "It's not like that at all. He's just a friend." Ryan's voice grew louder, his fists pounding the air in frustration. "You're going to share a room with a man a week before our wedding, and you want me to believe he's just a friend? I need this weekend." "Then who's the son of a, who's going to share a bed with you?" His voice filled the room, echoing the rage he felt. Caroline's response was a mere whisper. "It's not like that at all. He's my friend. I'm just talking to him." "Talking about what? About us? Our relationship? Is he an experienced psychiatrist or psychologist?" Caroline stared at the floor, silent. "Is he a licensed therapist or counselor?" Again, no answer. "Is he at least a member of the clergy who counsels engaged couples?" "No, but he's a good listener," she mumbled. "You're going to spend the weekend before our wedding with some, because he's a good listener?" Ryan growled, his anger escalating. Caroline lowered her head even further, her shoulders slumping, as if melting into the floor. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." Ryan waited until she lifted her head. Tears streamed down her cheeks, staining her carefully applied mascara. 2 hours of preparation for this hell had taken less than 2 minutes. "I'm going to ask you one last time," Ryan said, his voice a dangerous calm. "Who is that bastard? Promise me you won't hurt him." "I promise." "I'll find out who he is, and I'll kill him," she choked out, her voice raw with emotion. Caroline collapsed to the floor, curled up like a whimpering puppy that had just chewed on its master's favorite slippers. "Stand up and answer me," Ryan demanded, his voice a low growl. There was still no answer. In a fit of rage, Ryan ripped the mirror off the hallway wall and hurled it across the room. It shattered against the dining room wall, shards of glass scattering across the wooden floor. Caroline jumped to her feet. "That's why I was going to turn off my phone and leave you a note explaining why I had to do that." The look on Ryan's face startled Caroline. "So if I came home at the usual time, you'd be gone?" She nodded, her voice a silent confirmation of her betrayal. "You were going to sneak off to spend the weekend with another man and leave me a note?" Ryan opened his briefcase and pulled out a notepad and pen. He tossed them on the dining room table and pulled up a chair. "It better be a damn good note. Start writing." Caroline sat down and began to write. After a few minutes, she stopped and set the pen aside. Ryan waited for her to hand him the notebook, but when she didn't, he snatched it from her. She had written exactly one sentence: "Next week, I'm going to start a new chapter of my life, and I have to do it before it's too late." Ryan looked shocked. His voice trembled with excitement as he asked, "Tell me the truth, were you going to admit you were leaving with another man?" Man, if I had more time, I would have explained my feelings. You didn't answer my question. I would try to phrase it this way: you would agree that what I did was for us, to make our marriage stronger. That's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. How could your affair make our marriage stronger? Ryan didn't give her a chance to answer. People get divorced when one of them has an affair. Marriages end because of affairs, so do engagements. This caught Caroline off guard. She never thought Ryan would threaten to cancel their wedding over this. Caroline tried to think of a way to justify her actions, but finding none, she gave up and blurted out, "I couldn't tell you because I knew you would react badly." The word badly flipped a switch in Ryan's mind, and he exploded. What are you talking about? It's not bad yet. This is your last chance. I'm not marrying you next week or at all unless you give me his name right now. The wedding's off. How's that? Is that bad? Caroline grabbed his wrists, pleading, "Ryan, please don't say that. I love you more than anything in the world, but this is what I have to do." He broke free. "Tell me his name." Silence. "You have one last chance. Tell me his name or get the hell out of my house and never come back." "Ryan, please don't say that. I love you." "You really have one way of showing it." He opened the front door. "That's the last time I'm going to say that. Tell me his name or get the hell out of my house." Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. "Scott. Scott Jenkins. From work. Your boss. That son of a, he's older than your father." Ryan shouted, "Caroline, how dare you? Have you slept with him yet?" There was no answer. "Have you slept with him yet?" Caroline stared silently at her feet. "Have you slept with him yet?" Caroline covered her face with her hands. "Although your silence speaks louder than any words, I'm still waiting for an answer. Have you slept with him yet?" She nodded affirmatively. That simple gesture struck Ryan harder than any baseball bat. His heart raced, and he thought he was having a heart attack. He felt dizzy and grabbed the table to keep from falling. Caroline stood there, afraid to say anything. Ryan took a few deep breaths before he could speak. "As I recall from the Christmas party, he's married. What does his wife think about him having a beautiful blonde half her age?" "She doesn't mind. She's going through menopause and hasn't been able to have sex in almost a year." "Did she tell you that herself?" "No. Mr. Jenkins. Scott, he said she was too embarrassed to talk about it." "Why don't we call her and ask her?" "No. Scott said that would humiliate her even more." "Give me your phone." "I'm willing to take that chance." "I don't have his home number, just his cell phone." "That means the bastard's sneaking around behind his wife's back." "No. He respects her feelings and doesn't want her to feel like a lesser woman." "I can't believe how stupid you are to defend him." "I can't stand it. I'm giving you a choice, leave or be a discarded ass." "How dare you call me a, what would you call an engaged woman having an affair with a married man?" No answer. She turned away from him and started muttering something to herself. "Before you go, I have one more question. Why were you going to spend the weekend with another man?" She finally spoke up. "It's all your fault, you know that." "It's my fault? What the hell are you talking about? When we got serious, you admitted that you had sex with 3 girls before me. You were the only man I ever had sex with. I told you it didn't matter, but after talking to Scott, it started to gnaw at me, and I knew I would eventually cheat on you to make things work out. Scott said that if our marriage was going to be successful, we should enter into it as equals. He said I should do it now because I told him that you always said you would never stay married to a woman who cheats on you. We are not married, so I would even the score. Then I'll never cheat on you after we're married." "What are you, crazy? That was before I met you. I've been 100% faithful to you since our first date." Ryan continued, his voice a mix of disbelief and anger. "So you bet our entire future on the spewed advice of a horny old man who wanted a girl half his age?" "No. It's not like that at all. I mean, yeah, we talked about it. He made me realize how unfair it was to me, but he never tried to manipulate me. So it never occurred to you that he had a vested interest in you tying the score? No. It wasn't like that. He was just trying to help us. Don't be ridiculous. What exactly did the good listener say that would help us? He didn't say much, but he helped me think things through. He made me realize that I had the right to have sex with 3 different men so that we could enter our marriage on equal footing. The right? What a load of crap. Ryan wailed, his voice thick with frustration. Ryan, I've enjoyed sex with another man, but I love you so much, I'm willing to settle for one. Caroline grinned stupidly, as if she'd played a trump card. Settle for one? Ryan gave her a hard look. If it wasn't so pathetic, I'd laugh. I'm so confused. When Scott was explaining it, it made so much sense. It wasn't supposed to be like this. You're right, you and I were supposed to be together forever, faithful to each other. Ryan looked like he was about to snap. How do you think I'm going to react when I find out you're sleeping with your boss? No. You're turning this around. Then tell me, what do you think will happen when you get home from the weekend? Did you think I'd be a good little cuckold and thank the old man for screwing my fiancée? No. I was hoping you'd never find out. I love you. I never meant to hurt you. It would have been my little secret, hidden forever. You thought you'd go away for the weekend, just turn off your phone and disappear without telling me where you were going, and I wouldn't realize you cheated on me? He looked at her like she was the village idiot. And yet she went on talking. Even if you find out, I know that you love me enough to realize the justice of it, and we'll get married and live happily ever after. Justice? The word was a roar of rage. What if everything you know about me made you believe that I would still marry you after you had an affair? Scotty said. Ryan shouted, his voice cracking with anger. He found a naive woman he could control. No. He's a very caring man who wanted to help our marriage succeed. How many times have you had sex with him, or any other man? I swear, no other men. Then how many times did you have sex with him? Not that many. 7 or 8. You slept with another man 7 or 8 times while we were engaged, and you don't think that's a lot? I did it for us, Caroline sobbed. To make our marriage work. Remember that conversation when I admitted I wasn't a virgin? I never told you I'd had sex with 3 girls before you. I just said I had sex 3 times. Each time I went out with Sally McDonald, the girl I was doing well with before I met you. We were going to run away together after graduation. That stopped quickly when her mother caught us naked. You know how that story ended. They left town the next day, and I never heard from her again. You and I met the next month. Since that day, I've never kissed another woman, let alone had sex. Caroline felt nauseous. So you're 7 or 8 to 3 ahead of me. I guess I'd have 4 or 5 more women to make us equal. No, I'm. You think this is going to say I have the right to entertain 4 or 5 different women to make us equal? What about your best friend, Laura? You always said you didn't trust her around me. Maybe your sister. She's not seeing anyone. No, Ryan, please. No. Give me one good reason why not. I'm ending this affair, and I'm not going away with him this weekend. You have to understand, I made a mistake, but I did it for us. No, you did it for you, and only you. Please, Ryan, give me another chance, she begged. You're too late. I can never trust you again. Please, give me another chance. I swear I'll never. Ryan raised his hand, silencing her words. What you did was pure evil. There is no more of us. You destroyed that, and there will be no wedding, ever. No. Don't say that. I love you. I swear I'll never cheat on you again. What hurts more than your sexual betrayal is that you didn't come to me when you had doubts. Me, the man you supposedly love. I don't know what I would have said or done, but I can swear I would never advise you to have an affair with a married man. Only a marriage-destroying would do such a thing. Silence. Caroline could almost feel the bony fingers of death ripping her soul, her every dream, from her chest. She struggled to breathe and felt the taste of bile in her mouth. What do you think your mom will call you when I tell her we won't get married because you took another man inside you? I will make sure everyone knows what you did. All of our family and friends will know that we are not getting married because you had an affair with a married man. Ryan grabbed her left hand, his grip tight, and nearly ripped her finger off, taking her wedding ring from his ex-fiancée. No, that's mine. You gave it to me. Her hand swung at him, trying to take back the symbol of their commitment. You betrayed us. You betrayed everything behind that ring. He clenched it tightly in his fist. It's over. I can't marry you. Please leave before I hurt you. The finality of those words hurt Caroline. She tried to speak, but her mouth could not utter a word. Instead, she made a sound like a dying man struggling for his last breath. Her eyes were huge, and her body trembled. Still, not a word could be heard. There was silence in the room. Tears ran down Ryan's cheeks. I haven't felt like this since my father died. Caroline dug through her memory, trying to find the right words to save her marriage, but nothing came out. Only then did she finally realize she had been deceived. A sharp knock on the door interrupted the silence. Caroline recovered from the shock and pulled herself together enough to say, "My God, it's Scott. I'll tell him to go away. Please don't cause any trouble." Ryan grabbed the baseball bat he kept next to the door. "Scott, I'm not going to cause trouble. I'm going to kill him right here in the foyer while you watch." Caroline jumped up and tried to stop him. "He's not worth going to jail over. I really don't care. I have nothing to live for, but if I kill him, I'll get even for the pain he's caused me." She tried calling his cell phone to warn him. The call went straight to voicemail. Ryan, holding the bat in one hand, opened the door. He was ready to throw the old man off his feet, but instead, he was met by 2 police officers. The bat fell out of his hands, hitting the ceramic tiles of the floor with a loud clang. The officers ignored him. "Excuse me, ma'am. Are you Caroline Bradley?" "What's the problem, officer?" The police officer stepped inside and closed the door. "Do you know Mrs. Loretta Jenkins?" "I work for her husband, Scott." The officers looked at each other as if they were in on a personal joke. "Is everything okay? Did something happen to Loretta?" "No, ma'am, but about an hour ago, Mrs. Jenkins killed her husband in the living room of their house." Caroline collapsed and fell to the floor. Ryan went to the kitchen and came back with a large pot full of water. He poured it over her face. Her once beautifully styled hair began to look like a drowned rat. It was several minutes before she could speak. "Oh my God. Scotty's dead," she sobbed. "Yes, ma'am. She shot him 6 times in the chest with a .38 caliber revolver. Then she reloaded it and shot him 6 more times at point-blank range in the face. Detectives said it was the most cold-blooded thing they had ever seen. She nearly blew his head off. The only sound was Ryan's laughter. The cops looked at him like he was crazy. "I guess she didn't let her husband go away with you this weekend after all." "We need you to come down to the station, ma'am. Mrs. Jenkins told her neighbors she's going to kill you for ruining her marriage. We have half a dozen squads patrolling the neighborhood, but they think you'll be safer downtown." Her face was pale and numb. "Don't come back, cheater," his voice trailed off as his ex-fiancée let out a horrified scream. The police officers half-carried Caroline out to their car. Ryan watched the blue lights fade into the distance, trying to figure out how his life had turned to. 3 strong sips of whiskey loosened his tongue. The 4th awakened his writing skills. He began composing an email to everyone whose addresses he had: family, friends, co-workers, church choir, everyone. Ryan titled it, "Why I Won't Marry Caroline Bradley, a Cheater and a..." If you watch the news tonight, the lead story will be about a middle-aged woman who killed her husband for screwing a 25-year-old. I'm ashamed to say, but that is my ex-fiancé. Yes, little Miss Prim and Proper Caroline, who always looked down on her girlfriends for sleeping with everyone, is responsible for a 60-year-old man being shot and killed. Yes, she was sleeping with a guy older than her father. Now you know why I'm not getting married. Thank God it happened before I ruined my life by marrying a cheating. P.S. The police are hiding Caroline because her lover's widow is after her to kill her. I hope she succeeds. A couple of minutes after he hit the send button, he had half a dozen replies, then his cell phone rang. The first call was from the local newspaper asking for an interview. He sent the reporter a couple of pictures of Caroline in a tight bikini, then he told him the story of her betrayal. He then agreed to do an on-air interview with the local radio station. Ryan spent the next 2 hours talking to reporters and answering emails. Most of them, including Caroline's friends and family, were very supportive. When he got tired of telling the story, he took a break and started stuffing all of Caroline's belongings into black trash bags. Eventually, he filled 4 bags. He dragged them to the garage near the dumpsters. Ryan lived in a bedroom suburb that hadn't had a homicide in 5 years, so the next morning, the local paper printed the headline, "Love Triangle Ends in Death." Television stations also descended on the civilian population. Each carried the evening news with pictures of the suspect on the run, as well as Ryan's ex-fiancée in a bikini and the victim. It was pitch dark outside when Ryan decided to finish his bottle of bourbon. The next morning, television crews arrived in time to film the locksmith changing the locks. Finally, he posted a sign that read "No trespassing." 2 hours later, police found Loretta Jenkins sleeping in her car a couple of blocks from Caroline's apartment. She was arrested without incident. Ryan was hung over when someone started banging on his front door. "Get out," he yelled. "It's the police," came the reply. He opened the door. "Mr. Erickson, your fiancée wants to come home to explain what happened." "I don't have a fiancée, and this isn't her house. This is my house. This will never be her home. Please take her things away because I might do something I'll regret later." He went outside and pointed to the trash bags. "This is all she had. I would appreciate it if you would tell her that I will never forgive her, and I will never speak to her again. Never." He heard her yell from the patrol car, "Ryan, I love you." He slammed the door shut and turned on the TV. He turned on the movie channel and leaned back in his chair to watch a black and white western. No one had ever admitted to sending the pictures that Jenkins's wife had used to find out about the affair, but everyone agreed that Scotty's secretary had a very smug look on her face when she showed up Monday morning. Caroline had become the pariah in town. Of course, she was fired before she even entered her office. When the owner died, and his wife's very expensive lawyers couldn't prove temporary insanity, the business was sold to a Chinese investor who promptly fired everyone and moved operations to a small island nation. Caroline's family and friends were united in their condemnation of the cheating wife. The day after she testified in court, she packed all her possessions into her car and set out to start a new life. On her way out of town, she drove past Ryan's house one last time. The yard sign had a "for sale" sticker on it. She tried to drive on, but she couldn't see anything through her tears. She stopped the car, closed her eyes, and tried to remember how she felt when he hugged her. She wanted to die. Epilogue. 6 years passed, and Ryan returned to his hometown for the funeral of a childhood friend who died a hero in Iraq. The Alumni Association had invited the entire class, and a large turnout was expected. It was the first time he'd been back since that night. His beautiful wife, Brooke for short, squeezed his hand as he led her through the town square. She knew that every step carried very bad memories, and she tightened her grip. Ryan Jr., being a normal 3-year-old boy, didn't want to wait for his tardy parents and set out to explore. When his mom and dad stopped to look in the window of an antique store, Ryan Jr. ran without looking and bumped into a woman coming out of the store. She backed up a couple of steps and dropped her bag on the sidewalk. Several items fell out, including a condolence card. "Ryan Robert Erickson, stop running immediately." A chill ran down the woman's back when she heard his name. The mother turned to the woman and said, "We spent 6 hours in the car, and he has too much stored energy to walk." Ryan Jr. walked up to the woman and said, without prompting, "I'm sorry I ran into you, lady, and made you cry." "Are you okay?" Brooke asked. "I'm fine. Your son is a very well-mannered gentleman. You should be very proud of him." When Ryan Sr. knelt down to pick up the bag, he recognized the woman. Their eyes met, and they continued to stare at each other as his son helped him pick up the fallen ink pen. He silently handed the bag to the woman. It was then that Brooke noticed that her husband had tears in his eyes. She immediately realized who the woman was, and like a lioness protecting her cubs, she stood between the bad memory and her husband. "Don't ever come near my family," she glared at the woman, provoking her to speak. As Caroline slipped away, she heard Brooke add, "Never is forever."